babes, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maya. If this is your very first time here, today we're going to be doing part 2 of the video that came out last week. Last week I did post about eyeshadow brushes and how to use them, all for beginners. Today we are focusing on the face. Today we're going to be talking about the bare minimum, sis. Bare minimum. Not all them extra brushes and stuff that people be using for that face. The bare minimum of kinds of brushes that you need for a full face, a flawless foundation, concealer, bronzer, blush, all that jazz. We doing it today. Before we hop into it, please make sure that you hit subscribe below. I don't want you to miss any videos that I got coming your way. Also make sure you hit the notification bell as well so that you are updated when new videos go up. All right, y'all, let's hop right into it. So today I really wanted some natural light to be shining on us today. I did move my table around in my beauty room just so that I'm in front of the window so that we get more of a natural look. I don't even know if it looks different right now. I'll find out when I'm editing. Start this off by putting some lotion on my hands because y'all know your girl be getting ashy and that ain't cute. I'm gonna go ahead and take off my lashes. I be wanting to like have lashes on at all times. So I had on my lashes today, but we're gonna go ahead and take these mugs off. So obviously, given the nature of the video, we are going to start with face. So I do want to start with primer. You guys know that we need primer. It's not an option, ladies. Even if you are a beginner, primer is not an option. Let's say it together. Primer is not an option, sis. It's not an option. We need primer to work as a barrier between our skin and our foundation. It makes it more smooth. It makes it stick longer, last longer, look better. I don't think you should use a brush with primer. In my opinion, you can just use your hands. Usually I will go in and actually put dabs of it on my face with whatever the applicator is, or I'll just put it on my hand and dab it all over the face and rub it in. And you guys know that I've said before, don't rub it in like lotion. Yes, we're doing like a lotion rubbing like strokes right now, but it's really just to move it around. And then you want to pat it in or move it around because you do want it to still be there. You want a barrier. And that is our primer. I used to do this, and Jackie does it a lot, is setting your primer with powder. This is something that I used to do on my old videos all the time. If you are OG, give it up for my OGs. Then you remember that I did used to set my primer with my sponge. I'm not gonna do that today. I haven't been doing it lately, but it does help us oily chicks to lock in, you know, our matte on our face. I'm not gonna do that today, but if you do wanna do that, you do wanna use a beauty blender, don't use no other sponge, use a beauty blender if you want to do that. All right. Foundation. For foundation, I'm going to be using my NARS Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation, and this is in the shade Macao. We have multiple options of how we apply our foundation. My preference is a beauty blender and a dense blending brush. Beauty blender is very self-explanatory, so we're going to set that aside. We're talking about brushes today. We're gonna use our beauty blender, but we're talking about brushes. My recommendation for your foundation is to use a dense blending brush like this. This one is from e.l.f. I will link it below. And as you can see, it's a very dense brush. This is perfect for blending out your foundation. So some other options for foundations would be a brush like this. This one is from Juvia's Place. It is also dense, if you notice. Anything that you use for foundation, make sure it is dense, sis. We ain't using no big powder brushes for foundation. That is just not going to get you anywhere, honestly. This is a good option as well. Not my preference. I do prefer the ones that's more rounded, like the e.l.f. brush, but this one will do as well. But then you also have brands that come out with foundation brushes that are like this, and I feel like ones like this are good for maybe application, like putting the foundation on your skin, but not to really blend it out. So I would stay away from foundation brushes that look like this. We just gonna put her over here. And then also foundation brushes to me that look like this are dense, but they're not super dense. This is like more of a powder brush to me, and that's not really as dense as we need it to be. So I would also stray away from ones like this. It's too small. Look at the difference between this one and this one. You know, this one is much better. I am going to take a few pumps of foundation and put it on the back of my hand. I'm gonna take my finger and just put dots all over the face. And that way we're moving our foundation around. We have it more spread out. All we have to do is go in and blend here in a moment. And then I'm gonna go in with my e.l.f. brush and start to blend out. You wanna go ahead and blend this out in circular motions. You can also like push it like I'm pushing it here so that you really can get that shade to be blended out, no streaks or anything. That's another reason why it's really good to use a brush like this, because it does not produce streaking. So you can really see how using the circular motions really just pushes the foundation around, keeps the coverage. So this kind of brush is absolutely perfect. I know NYX also has a brush like this, which is really dope, and these are both affordable, so can't go wrong with that. Now I always feel like I need extra coverage around the mouth area, so I'm adding a little more foundation, and I'm actually gonna go over that foundation with a sponge instead of the brush. For me, it keeps the coverage there without like moving it around, and just kind of pushes it in so that it's blended but it doesn't move, if that makes any sense. And if you do end up putting foundation on your skin with a brush and you do see streaks, Beauty Blender is the best, sis. The best thing that you can use to help fix that situation. So don't say I ain't never let y'all know nothing of value, okay? All right, so now that we have a more even complexion, we're gonna move on to concealer. So in my opinion, it is better to contour or to, you know, add the deeper shades to your face first. I have a habit of doing the lighter shades first, but I feel like for beginners, it's a lot easier, and I did put this on my makeup for beginners video. It's a lot easier to do the deeper shade before you go in with the lighter shade. So today we're gonna be using the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, and this is in Dark Coffee. My opinion is to use the applicator for concealer. You use other things to blend it out, but use your applicator for your concealer. If it's just you using your makeup, then it's not a big deal. Some people do actually like to, you know, take it out, put it on their hand, and use a brush to actually apply it. And that might be easier for you as well. Sometimes that might have less blending involved. So what I'm gonna do is one side, I'm gonna do it like that, like add it with a brush. And then on the other side, I'm gonna add it with the applicator. So on this side, we're gonna go in with an applicator. And I'm just gonna add it in those areas for today. We're just gonna leave it like that. And then on the other side, I'm gonna actually take this and put it on my hand and dip into the blending brush that I'm gonna use to apply it. Y'all always see me use it. This is the brush from Real Techniques, and this is the brush that I always use to blend out my concealer. It is an extremely dense brush, which I love. And for me, it just works really, really well to blend out your concealer. So I'm gonna go ahead and dip this into the shade and start to push it into the skin where I want it. So we have it in two different ways. I'm gonna go ahead and take this to blend it out. Typically, I will go in circular motions and just start to blend it out into the skin. At the top, you know, push it back into the hairline. We already talked about this. But this does that perfectly. On the other side, I'm gonna go ahead and blend this out as well. And you don't always have to go in circular motions. If you just move the brush like that, that'll help you to get the same effect, and it might actually be easier since we're working around the hairline, especially if you like wearing a wig or something, girl. Can't be going in no circular motion, so just push it back. And today we are creating a very natural face. We're not going super, super glam, so that's why, you know, we're adding the dimension, but it's not too much, which is why I didn't reach for my L'Oreal, because y'all know that concealer will mess up your life. So next we're gonna go into the lighter concealer. So I am going to use today, I'm gonna use Almond and Amber and Nabla Cosmetics. We're gonna take the deeper shade to contour, and then we're gonna take the next shade that's lighter to highlight. So like I said, one side I'm gonna use the applicator, the other side I'm gonna use a brush. So first we're gonna go in with our applicator and just add our concealer where I want it to go. And this side, since we're doing it like this, I'm down here, I'm gonna add it with this, and then above the cupid's bow, I'm gonna do it with the brush. And then down the nose, I'm gonna use this too. So that's what our applicator, pretty simple, pretty easy, you know, nothing we're not used to. The next one, I'm gonna take a brush, and this brush is actually from Colourpop. This is their F5 brush, and I feel like this is perfect for a concealer brush for areas that you don't need it to be super, super like defined. And that would obviously be like under the eye, forehead. I recommend more using just the applicator from your concealer to apply concealer, but you know, it can work that way. So I'm dipping this into product that I put on my hand, and I'm just gonna put it in the areas where I want it to be. Now, the cool thing that you guys are already seeing happening is with the brush, you can apply and you can blend all at the same time. And for some people, that is extremely helpful. So that's why I wanted to do both methods with you guys so that you can really see the difference of what you would prefer to do, what would be the easier method for you. But this one is already started to blend out, whereas this one is just applied. She ain't moved yet. You know, we need to blend her out. If you don't have a beauty blender, obviously, you can go ahead and use this, because if you use this and this is blended out, obviously we got some lines of demarcation here. You can go back in with your foundation brush, not this brush, because this has a darker shade on it. And then you start to bring the darker shade up into the concealer. And we don't want to do that, or the lighter concealer. Use your foundation brush. This is your base color. You can use that to kill this line, and now you're blended out in that area. So you see what I'm saying? I'm also gonna take this brush to highlight underneath our contour and go back into the foundation brush to kill that line. And goes for up here, kill the line with the foundation brush. On this side, I'm going to take my handy dandy beauty blender and blend out the concealer. And we all know when using a beauty blender, you definitely want to make sure that you are patting and not swiping. Swiping will take off product, patting will blend and move the product. With the excess, I'm going in underneath our contour just to add a little highlight. And again, killing it with my foundation brush. And then I'm gonna go in and blend this out at the top. And you also can kill lines with the foundation brush or anything with the foundation on. If you use a beauty blender, the butt of the beauty blender will work as well. Now, like I said, the brush is not the best for down the nose. It is a very detailed area, somewhere where you kind of want it to be more thin. So if you want to do the brush, you can take it and do like this and blend it in like that, and then go in with the butt of a beauty blender to kill those lines on the side, or just taking the beauty blender right down the nose to blend that out. Either way works. So I do want to brighten on the under eye and down the nose, so I'm going to go into a brighter shade, and this is an amber in Nabla, and I'm going to go ahead and put some dots right underneath the eye and down the nose. So with this concealer, of course, like I said, you can use the brush to blend out. This brush still has that darker shade on it, but you know, it's not that big of a deal. You can use that and then the beauty blender on this side. So I'm gonna take the brush to this side and we get a lighter feel, but no. I think that the beauty blender is gonna work better when making sure that that color stays where it needs to be. So I'm gonna use the beauty blender to pat that in. And I don't know if you can see the difference. I see the difference between this side and this side. This one, I'm keeping the brightness that I'm going for, whereas this side is kind of faded away, also because I did use a brush that had the darker color on it, but you know, that's beside the point. I feel like even if that wasn't the case, it still would be a little more blurred out, a little more muted, but we ain't going for mute, baby. We going for full brightness on the under eye. So yeah, I would recommend using the sponge for that. And if you're a beginner and you plan on doing like an eye look while you're doing, after you do your face, this would be the time to just go ahead and take your concealer brush or your beauty blender and go over your eyes kind of as a pre-primer. Because okay, just imagine we do our whole face. We put on powder and everything, and then the eyes are just bare. And then you go in with concealer, and when you do that kind of stuff, sometimes it creates kind of like a line that would be like right here, because you got all this product and set and all this right here, and then you have bare skin. You definitely want to make sure you go in with your foundation over your eyes. Maybe not a whole lot, we don't need full coverage because it's going to be covered up, but a little bit, little coverage here and there, because that's just going to help later on. Even if you do add more concealer as a base underneath your eyeshadow, it's going to make it blend more seamless, like in this area, and you won't have like lines of demarcation right there. And that was just a quick little, you know, extra tip for the girls. You know, I just had to throw that in there. And our scheduled break for a little lip therapy, because you know, no chap lips on this channel. Also don't like foundation lips, so I usually will wipe off product off my lips. I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but I for sure do. And really quick, I love the Beauty Blender, of course. She is the GOAT, but also this Thrive Cosmetics blender sponge is dope as well as the Nabla one. I'm gonna link both of these in the description box for y'all because sis, you got to get in on the madness. So I am gonna go ahead in with a little nose contour really quick. Usually for my nose contour, I use a brush like this. It's like an angled blending brush. And I feel like this is the perfect brush to use for your nose contour. And for the sake for beginners, I'm gonna go ahead and take some concealer, deeper concealer, put it on the back of my hand, and I'm gonna dip my brush into it. And that way we know we're not putting on too much product, and I'm just gonna put it in the areas where I want it. That way I'm applying and blending at the same time. And this is a benefit of doing your face first, is you can actually like get up in here where your brow is and bring it down into your nose contour. But I feel like doing it like this might be a whole lot easier for my ladies who, you know, don't want a super deep nose contour and also worry about, you know, just putting too much product in that area. It's way harder to remove extra product that was placed on your face than to build up. I don't think that made a lot of sense, but y'all get my drift. And in my opinion, a good nose contour trick is, of course, if you have a nice, good beauty blender, is to go over, squeeze the butt, and then go over those lines. That, to really kill the lines of demarcation, it kind of just blends it all. And for me, that helps to make my nose contour not look so harsh. And it's not because I don't like the shape of my nose. I love my nose, because obviously my contour really doesn't do anything for the width of my nose, which I don't mind because I do like it. But I don't know, I just like the fully sculpt face look, so I do it. All right, so now we're gonna hop into powder and setting the face. The powders I'm using today are from Mented. This is the Mented Skin Silk. The lighter one is in light tan and the deeper one is in medium deep. We're first gonna talk about the highlighting powder, which is the lighter powder or yellow powder. This one is a lighter powder that I'm gonna use because I do want some bright under eyes. When you are applying this, of course, if you are oily, go ahead in with your good old deep beauty blender. Just pat it on in, tap it on your hand, and push it into the face. Easy. And for the under eye over here, I'm gonna go ahead and use that method. I'm gonna put a little bit of this on the lid. I'm gonna make sure real quick that I don't have no creases. And the best way to do that is with a beauty blender or a sponge. Investing in a $20 beauty blender is, like I said, it's an investment. So on this side, I'm gonna dip with my beauty blender into this powder. I'm gonna press it on the back of my hand and I'm going to push it into the under eye. And I push it in. I never swipe, I'm just pushing it in consistently. And I'm gonna do the same thing as far as set the chin area with the beauty blender. For my ladies who are not as oily or don't feel like they need to pile so much powder onto their face, or if you're just uncomfortable in general with using that much powder, you would need a powder brush that looks like this. This particular one is from Nabla Cosmetics. And with this brush, I'm gonna dip into this powder. You can do the same method of putting it on the back of your hand or blowing it, and then you press it into the skin. You might wanna look up for this so that you get into those creases, and then you pull downwards to start to dust it off. I'm also going in with this over the lip, and then we're also gonna use this for the forehead. And the reason that you want to use a brush that's shaped like this is it is flat. If you turn it to the side, it is a flatter brush. So it allows you to have width. So to get the powder in the areas where you want it, it's flat. So it pushes it into the skin as well. Not as much coverage as like the Beauty Blender would, but it still makes sure you are nice and matte, as you can see. Next step in powder or highlighting powder is to use a brush like this to go down the nose. If you are a nose contour or if you want that more slim nose look, then you definitely want to use like an eyeshadow brush that looks like this. It is like a rounded flat shader brush. Using this will allow you to have control over your nose contour and setting right down the middle. So I'm going to take a little bit of my powder and strategically go down the nose. Essentially, this is like a smaller brush of the one we just used, but it's all about control. The point of highlighting with a lighter shade is to bring a brightness, and I'm actually gonna go into the one that I use for contour my nose to get rid of the powder on the areas that are darker because we don't want it to be light there. I also use my beauty blender for this. I'll like squeeze it but I always felt like that was not a good idea, so I'm not gonna recommend that to the girls today. I'm gonna recommend using a brush like this, and both of these brushes are from Shiny. So I'm gonna wipe this off a little bit on my hand or on a towel or whatever you got, and just dust off the powder. We baked a little bit, and you don't have to bake, but I did just to bring, you know, that slimness to the nose. So just in case you thought we was done with powder, we are not, because there are pieces and places on the face that we have not touched yet. So let's do it in its entirety. Next, we want to set underneath our contour, and this is, like I said, in medium deep. I'm going to open her up, put a little bit on the lid, and with this same kind of brush, maybe we want to use a smaller one, I'm just going to set right underneath. So with the sponge, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. My preference for this is to do it with a sponge, and you want to kind of bring that all the way down, and it helps to just sculpt the face, so when you're looking forward, you can see from the front that sculpted look. And I like to use, like I've mentioned many times before, I like to use the skin tone powder for this, because for me, I don't like looking too bright in that area, so this helps to numb it down a bit. I'm also going to take the butt of my beauty blender to dip into that powder and set my smile lines, because the girls, y'all know that my smile lines get crazy. And we have one more step for powder. We still have the perimeter of the face where we contoured that has not been touched by powder. If you look really closely, and I'm getting into the sun over here, if my camera would act right, good Lord, you can see the shine. You see how we are matte here? And you can see shine like all right here, honey. You don't want to not touch that area, okay? So this is where our full face, full fluffy powder brushes come in. You should never be using a brush like this if you ain't doing it for mineralized powder foundation or to set your face with a translucent powder. Brushes like this is good for all over powder. Unless, you know, let's say you didn't actually use like highlighting, concealer and all that, and you just want your face to be matte, then yes, you would use this all over the face. But they're not for specific uses like bronzer and contour and blush and highlight and stuff like that. The one I'm gonna use is from Colourpop, and this is their F18 brush. I really don't even have to really do this because it's kind of hard to miss. It's such a big fluffy brush. And I am going to dip this into the skin tone powder, and I'm gonna pat this all over the perimeter of my face. Okay, so now let's get back in the corner like we were before. So now we can see that that shine that was there before, it has diminished a little bit, and now we are fully set, sis. Now we are going to get into bronzer. So the bronzer I'm going to use today is the Mented by ABF bronzer. They have two of them, one in season 2, one in season 1. One is lighter. I'm going to go ahead in with season 2, which is a deeper shade. Bronzer brushes. This is a bronzer brush. It is a fluffy brush, but it's a slightly more dense than like a big powder brush or a blush brush, and it is at an angle. This one is another one. It's called a bronzer contour brush. This is from Pratt, which is a sister brand of Sigma Beauty, and she has the exact same shape as this other one. I'm gonna go ahead and pop into this bronzer, use the one from Almond, dip into the shade and start to bronze. And I feel like the point of having the brush that is shaped in this way is to be able to go more with the contours of the face. So if you have it like right here, the end that's going down is kind of like with inside of your cheekbone, and this one's at the top of the cheekbone, and you're able to easily put the powder where it needs to be. Also here, the lower part is at your hairline, this part is up against the skin, and you're able to push it where she need to be. So contour, it allows you to sculpt, but then also allows you to go in with bronzer, which is kind of in the same area, and add color and warmth to the face. Now, I always use bronzer as well to deepen the contour of my nose. I'm gonna switch to season 1, which is a lighter shade, and I'm gonna use that to go over my nose contour. And then always going into my butt of my beauty blender to kill the lines. So I'm gonna do my eyes all the way at the end. I do wanna go ahead and continue with the face with you guys before I get off camera to do the eyes. Actually, I don't know, I might do it on camera. Well, we gonna see. But for now, we're gonna hop into blush. For blush, I'm gonna use this Shayla by Colourpop Under Construction Construction Blush. This is in Construct. These are blush brushes. They're just about the same density as our bronzer brushes, but they're more rounded. They are not really dense. You see, it's not a lot of density to these, like our foundation brush. This one is the Sigma F10 Powder Blush Brush. So I'm gonna go ahead and dip into this. And it's always good to put the blush on the apples of your cheeks. So smile a little bit, honey. Let's see them teeth. And put our blush on. And I kind of always like to pull it back as well. And this is a very neutral, natural blush. I love it. All right, so the very last product that we are gonna hit on today is highlighter. We do have some options for highlight brushes. When you're doing a highlighter, and one that I usually use a lot is this fan brush. This is from Sephora. I've had her since I started doing makeup about 4 years ago. I would not recommend this for beginners, only because this one in particular is not very flat. So you would tend to get highlight in places where you don't want highlight. That's why I would not recommend this. So we just gonna put her to the side. I would never also use one like this. This is from Mercier. This is more for my professionals. The ones I would use are ones like this. This one is like a bigger version of this one. So, and this is from BH Cosmetics. If you're going for like a more bold highlight, more surface area, you would go for something like this. But I'm going to recommend this one completely. This one is from Moda M12 brush, and this is for the highlight of your cheeks. This would not be for like on the nose or anything unless you want something that's more free and not so pinpointed in the area where you want it, like I usually do, like on my nose, under my eyes, my lip and stuff like that. But this is perfect for your cheeks. It's a SkinGlazing highlight in Lucent Jungle from Nabla, and I'm gonna take this, dip it in there, and highlight the cheeks. I'm not going too crazy with the highlight today, but I love how this brush applies it. It makes it a lot easier for you to put it in the area where it needs to be without it getting too crazy in areas where it don't need to be. I'm even gonna use a little bit of this for my cubix bow. I'm just using it lightly though, because you know your cubix bow does sit upwards, so it's easier to get it on there. You don't have to be as precise. And then for highlight under the brow, down the nose, I did mention this in my previous video about brushes for eyeshadow. You want to do a brush that's like this. And this is a very small eyeshadow brush, like a detail brush. And this is what I use for detail highlight application. And we are done. So I am gonna go ahead and keep this on topic. I'm gonna go ahead and do my eyes off camera. So we're gonna go ahead and finish off the lip. Nabla did just come out with a cutie collection, and these, well, this lippy was in it, and this is like a multi-use thing. You can use it maybe like as an eyeliner, as a lip liner. Arrow number 2. And to be honest, this is probably about to become my favorite lip liner. Y'all know I always use like a brown lipstick as a lip liner, but sis is coming through with like the perfect shade that I want. So the lip, I'm gonna go into this Nabla lipstick in Lust. We are going for a matte ombre lip. Y'all know how I get down with my ombre lip. And I've been doing a lot of gloss lately. I think I just wanna leave this how it is. And we're done. All right, babes, so this is our finished look using only your essential brushes that you need for a full face. For my beginners, I hope this was really, really helpful for you guys. For my ladies who are not beginners and you made it this far, thank you so much for watching and hanging out with your girl for a little minute today. If you guys like this video, please make sure that you give me a big thumbs up. Comment below and let me know what you thought of the video, if it was helpful for you. Also, please make sure that you hit subscribe below so that you are updated when new videos come out, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.